Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. In case you didn't notice, Srila Prabhupada's books are what spread Krishna consciousness all over the world so quickly. That was Prabhupada's transcendental plot to uplift and re-spiritualize human society by the mass distribution of his books. I've been preaching in this movement for 47 years. I've traveled a lot of places. I've done a lot of things. And every time I have an opportunity to sit in front of an audience and I ask the question, how many of you have come to Krishna consciousness somehow or other through Srila Prabhupada's books? It's always almost unanimous. So we are in the process of taking it to another level, in the sense that we're trying to make Srila Prabhupada's books available through the medium of sound, directly, verbatim, in word for word, every day. We're here in Govardhan in the live studios at ISKCON Bhaktivedanta Ashram in my room, where I've been living for 25 years, after we refurbished this place. I'm sitting with Pranata Karuna Prabhu and Abhaya, who you can't see because he's manning the phone, manning the camera, and Bhakti Eric, who's just joined us today. And at least three of us are feeling separation because we're going to be leaving tomorrow morning, and it's always the same when we leave this place where the atmosphere is unmatchable, the ether is so pure and spiritual and so conducive to hearing and chanting and remembering who we are and who Krishna is. It's mystical. It's unbelievable. Anyway, welcome aboard, and all of you out in cyberspace, please share. Let's grow this more and more. I was speaking to Gopinath Prasad, the learned disciple of Borijan Prabhu, who is very technically advanced and professional, and he's amazed at how he was actually the one who gave me the suggestion to live stream these readings. I was doing it for years and years without live streaming them, and I eventually took that advice, and I give him credit for that. And he's amazed at how much we've done, how much we've actually recorded, live streamed. We're on chapter 50, and we only have 10 more chapters to go, and we'll have the whole Bhagavatam in this format recorded on Facebook. And now the next stage is maybe to get it out into the same videos out into YouTube, so that we can organize them a little better, make them more accessible. So life goes on, spiritual life goes on, and Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, it just keeps on increasing and getting more blissful. And Krishna is capable of doing that with every single person in the universe, if we'll just cooperate. So thank you for cooperating and coming and joining us. Let's first recite Srila Sanatana Goswami's glorification of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, which in my opinion is the most beautiful glorification of the Bhagavatam available. These 5 verses are a part of the book that he wrote, Sri Krishna Lila Stava, to glorify Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And this verse is these 5 verses comprise the 107th obeisance out of 108 obeisances that he designed to offer to Krishna's Vrindavan Leela. Okay, without further ado, Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, and it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satpala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths. You are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad-Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwan Duditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life heir of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madgudo Man Mahadana Mannishtadaga Madbhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu saduta dayin atini chochata kada hanamunchagada chinmam premnarit kandayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, we've reached the 50th chapter in Canto 10. When we reach the 60th chapter, we will have done the whole Srimad-Bhagavatam in this format. This chapter, number 50, is entitled, Krishna Establishes the City of Dvaraka. This chapter relates how Lord Krishna defeated Jarasandha 17 times in battle and then constructed the city of Dvaraka. After Kamsa was killed, his two queens, Asti and Prapti, went to the home of their father, Jarasandha, and sorrowfully described to him how Krishna had made them widows. Upon hearing this account, King Jarasandha became angry. He vowed to rid the earth of all the Yadavas, and he gathered an immense army to lay siege to Mathura. When Sri Krishna saw Jarasandha attacking, the Lord considered the reasons for his descent to this world and then decided to destroy Jarasandha's army, which was a burden to the earth. Two effulgent chariots suddenly appeared, equipped with drivers and furnishings, together with all the Lord's personal weapons. Seeing this, Lord Krishna addressed Lord Baladev, "My dear brother, Jarasandha is now attacking Mathurapuri, so please mount your chariot and let us go destroy the enemy's army." The two lords took up their weapons, mounted their chariots, and went forth from the city. When Lord Krishna came before his opponent's army, he sounded his conch shell, striking fear into his enemies' hearts. King Jarasandha surrounded Krishna and Balaram with his soldiers, chariots, and so on. And the women of the city, having climbed up to the roofs of the palaces, became extremely unhappy because they could not see the lords. Then Krishna twanged his bow and started to rain down a torrent of arrows upon the enemy soldiers. Soon Jarasandha's unfathomable army had been annihilated. Then Lord Baladev arrested Jarasandha and was about to bind him up with ropes, when Sri Krishna and Baladev released the king. Lord Krishna reasoned that Jarasandha would assemble another army and return again to fight. This would facilitate Krishna's goal of removing the earth's burden. Released, Jarasandha returned to Magadha and vowed to perform austerities with the aim of avenging his defeat. The other kings advised him that his defeat was only a reaction of his karma. Thus informed, King Jarasandha withdrew to his kingdom with a heavy heart. Sri Krishna rejoined the citizens of Mathura, who began rejoicing, singing songs of triumph, and arranging victory celebrations. The Lord brought all the warriors' jewelry and ornaments that had been picked up from the battlefield and presented them to Maharaj Ugrasena. Jarasandha attacked the Yadavas and Mathura 17 times, and each time his enemies were totally destroyed. Then, as Jarasandha prepared to attack for the 18th time, a warrior named Kalayavana, who had been searching for a worthy opponent, was sent by Narada Muni to fight the Yadavas. With 30 million soldiers, Kalayavana laid siege to the Yadava capital. Lord Krishna looked upon this attack with concern, for he knew that with Jarasandha's arrival imminent, there was a serious threat that the simultaneous attack of these two enemies might endanger the Yadavas. Therefore the Lord constructed a wonderful city within the sea as a safe haven for the Yadavas. Then he brought them all there by his mystic power. This city was fully populated with members of all four social orders, and within it no one felt the pangs of thirst and hunger. The various demigods, headed by Indra, each offered as tribute to Lord Krishna the same opulences they had originally obtained from him to establish their positions of authority. Once he saw his subjects safely settled, Lord Sri Krishna took permission from Lord Baladev and went out of Mathura unarmed. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami said, when Kamsa was killed, O heroic descendant of Bharat, his two queens, Asti and Prapti, went to their father's house in great distress. Text 2. The sorrowful queens told their father, King Jarasandha of Magadha, all about how they had become widows. 3. Hearing this odious news, O king, Jarasandha was filled with sorrow and anger, and he began the greatest possible endeavor to rid the earth of the Yadavas. 4. With the force of 23 Akshohini divisions, he laid siege to the Yadu capital, Mathura, on all sides. Purport. The numbers involved in an Akshohini division are given in the word meanings. An Akshohini was a standard fighting force in ancient times. Word meanings. Okay, one Akshohini division is 21,870 soldiers on elephants, 21,870 charioteers, 65,710 cavalrymen. Huh? That's what I said, 65,610. And 109,350 infantry soldiers. So that's one Akshohini. He had 13 Akshohinis, or 23, 23 Akshohini divisions. Got a few men there. Text 5 and 6. Although Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the original cause of this world, when he descended to the earth, he played the role of a human being. Thus, when he saw Jarasandha's assembled army surrounding his city like a great ocean, overflowing its shores, And when he saw how this army was striking fear into his subjects, the Lord considered what his suitable response would be according to the time, place, and specific purpose of his current incarnation. Purport. The Acharyas point out that the Supreme Godhead did not have to worry about a mortal attack from Jarasandha and his soldiers. But as stated here, Sri Krishna was playing the part of a human being, Karana Manusha, and he played the part well. This play is called Leela, the Lord's enactment of spiritual pastimes for the pleasure of his devotees. Although ordinary persons may be dumbfounded by the Lord's pastimes, the devotees derive tremendous pleasure from his inimitable style of behavior. Thus, Srila Sridhar Swami points out that Sri Krishna thought as follows: how should I defeat Jarasandha? Should I kill the army but not Jarasandha? Or should I kill Jarasandha and take the army for myself? Or perhaps I should just kill both of them. Lord Krishna's conclusion is described in the following verses 7 and 8. The Supreme Lord thought, since it is such a burden on the earth, I will destroy Jarasandha's army, considering of Akshohinis, of foot soldiers, horses, chariots, and elephants, which the king of Magadha has assembled from all subservient kings and brought together here. But Jarasandha himself should not be killed, since in the future he will certainly assemble another army. Purport. After due consideration, Lord Krishna decided that since he had descended to the earth to destroy the demons, and since Jarasandha was so enthusiastic to bring all the demons to the Lord's front door, it was definitely more efficient to keep Jarasandha alive and busy. Text 9. This is the purpose of my present incarnation, to relieve the earth of its burden, protect the pious, and kill the impious. 10. I also assume other bodies to protect religion and to end irreligion whenever it flourishes in the course of time. Text 11. Shukadeva Goswami continued, as Lord Govinda was thinking in this way, 2 chariots, as effulgent as the sun, suddenly descended from the sky. They were complete with drivers and equipment. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti agree that the chariots came down from the Lord's own abode, Vaikuntha Loka, the kingdom of God. The faithful devotees of the Lord derive tremendous pleasure by observing the Lord's incomparable technology. Text 12. The Lord's eternal divine weapons also appeared before him spontaneously. Seeing these, Sri Krishna, Lord of the senses, addressed Lord Sankarshan. 13 and 14. The Supreme Lord said, my respected elder brother, just see this danger which has beset your dependents, the Yadus. And see, dear Master, how your personal chariot and favorite weapons have come before you. The purpose for which we have taken birth, my Lord, is to secure the welfare of our devotees. Please now remove from the earth the burden of these 23 armies. Text 15. After Lord Krishna had thus invited his brother, the 2 Dasharas, Krishna and Balarama, wearing armor and displaying their resplendent weapons, drove out of the city in their chariots. Only a very small contingent of soldiers accompanied them. Text 16. As Lord Krishna came out of the city with Dvaraka at the reins of his chariot, he blew his conch shell, and the enemy soldiers' hearts began to tremble with fear. 17. Jarasandha looked at the two of them and said, "O Krishna, lowest of men, I do not wish to fight alone with you, since it would be a shame to fight with a mere boy. You fool who keep yourself hidden, O murderer of your relatives, go away. I will not fight with you." Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami has interpreted Jarasandha's words as follows. Purushadama can be understood as Purusha Adama Yasmat, meaning Krishna to whom all men are inferior. In other words, here Lord Krishna is being addressed as O Purushottama, best of living beings. Similarly, the word Guptena, hidden, indicates Lord Krishna's aspect of being in everyone's heart and invisible to material vision. The words Tvaya Manda can also be divided, according to Sanskrit grammar, as Tvaya Amanda. In this case, Jarasandha is indicating that Krishna is not foolish, but rather most alert. The word Bandhu was used by Jarasandha in the sense of relative, since Lord Krishna killed his maternal uncle, Kamsa. However, Bandhu comes from the verb band, to bind, and therefore Bandhuhan can be understood as one who destroys the bondage of ignorance. Similarly, the word Yahi, please go, indicates that Lord Krishna should approach the living beings and bless them to become Krishna conscious. Many times Saraswati speaks through these demoniac persons by the mercy of our acharyas. Text 18. You, Rama, should gather your courage and fight with me if you think you can do it. You may either give up your body when it is cut to pieces by my arrows and thus attain to heaven, or else kill me. Purport. According to Acharya Sridhar Swami, Jarasandha suspected that Lord Balarama's body was indestructible, and thus he offered what might be a more practical alternative, that Balarama kill Jarasandha. 19. The Supreme Lord said, Real heroes do not simply boast, but rather show their prowess in action. We cannot take seriously the words of one who is full of anxiety and who wants to die. This is the habit of the Kshatriya warriors. They would all, like you see these football players and boxers and fight, if they all look at each other and trash talk and all this stuff. Krishna was doing this to the perfection. The Kshatriya spirit. Text 20. Shukadeva Goswami said, just as the wind covers the sun with clouds, or covers the fire with dust, the son of Jara marched toward the two descendants of Madhu, and with this huge assemblage of armies surrounded them and their soldiers, chariots, flags, horses, and charioteers. Purport. Acharya Sridhar points out that clouds only seem to cover the sun. The sun remains shining in the vast sky, nor is the potency of fire affected by a thin covering of dust. Similarly, the covering of Jarasandha's military strength was only apparent. 21. The women stood in the watchtowers, palaces, and high gates of the city. When they could no longer see Krishna's and Balaram's chariots, identified by banners marked with the emblems of Garuda and a palm tree, they were struck with grief and fainted. Purport. The women are especially mentioned here because of their extraordinary attachment to Lord Krishna and Lord Balarama. 22. Seeing his army tormented by the relentless and savage rain of arrows from the massive opposing forces gathered like clouds about him, Lord Hari twanged his excellent bow, Shanga, which both gods and demons worship. 23. Lord Krishna took arrows from his quiver, fixed them on the bowstring, pulled back, and released endless torrents of sharp shafts, which struck the enemy's chariots, elephants, horses, and infantrymen. The Lord shooting his arrows resembled a blazing circle of fire. Text 24. Elephants fell to the ground, their foreheads split open. Cavalry horses fell with severed necks. Chariots fell with their horses, flags, drivers, and masters all shattered. And foot soldiers collapsed with severed arms, thighs, and shoulders. Text 25 to 28. On the battlefield, hundreds of rivers of blood flowed from the limbs of the humans, elephants, and horses who had been cut to pieces. In these rivers, arms resembled snakes, human heads, turtles, dead elephants, islands, and dead horses, crocodiles. Hands and thighs appeared like fish, human hair like water weeds, bows like waves, and various weapons like clumps of bushes. The rivers of blood teemed with all of these. Chariot wheels looked like terrifying whirlpools, and precious gems and ornaments resembled stones and gravel in the rushing red rivers, which aroused fear in the timid, joy in the wise. With the blows of his plow weapon, the immeasurably powerful Lord Balarama destroyed Magadendra's military force. And though this force was as unfathomable and fearsome as an impassable ocean, for the two sons of Vasudeva, the lords of the universe, the battle was hardly more than play. 29. For him who orchestrates the creation, maintenance, and destruction of the three worlds, and who possesses unlimited spiritual qualities, it is hardly amazing that he subdues an opposing party. Still, when the Lord does so, imitating human behavior, sages glorify his acts. Purport. The philosopher Aristotle once argued that the Supreme God would hardly take part in human activities, since all ordinary activities are unworthy of such a divine being. Similarly, Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti, who almost certainly never read the works of Aristotle, raises a similar point. Since Sri Krishna creates, maintains, and annihilates the entire universe, isn't it an uninteresting mismatch when he fights with against Jarasandha? The answer is as follows. The Lord plays the part of a human being, and expanding his pleasure potency, creates thrilling transcendental pastimes, full of suspense and dynamic action. By the Lord's Yogamaya potency, he appears exactly like a human being, and thus we may enjoy the spectacle of the Supreme Person acting on the earthly stage. Undoubtedly, stubborn agnostics will argue that since Krishna is God, there is no real suspense involved. Such skeptics simply do not understand Krishna's attractive potency. Beauty and drama, even on the material stage, possess their own fascinating logic. And similarly, we love Krishna for his own sake. We appreciate his beauty for its own sake. And we enjoy Krishna's pastimes because they are in fact wonderful in and of themselves. In fact, Krishna executes his pastimes not for a mundane, egotistical purpose, but for our pleasure. Thus, the presentation of spiritual pastimes is itself an act of love that Krishna performs for the infinite spiritual happiness of pure-hearted souls who have transcended material envy of the Godhead. In this regard, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes an important verse from the Gopal Tapani Upanishad, Narakriti Parabrahma Karana Manusha. The Supreme Absolute Truth, for His own purpose, appears in a human-like form, although He is the source of everything. Similarly, in Srimad-Bhagavatam 10.14.32, we find, Yan Mitram Paramanandam Purnam Brahma Sanatanam. The source of transcendental bliss, the eternal Supreme Brahman, has become their friend. Text 30. Jarasandha, with his chariot lost and all his soldiers dead, was left with only his breath. At that point, Lord Balarama forcibly seized the powerful warrior, just as one lion takes hold of another. 31. With the divine noose of Varuna and other mortal ropes, Balarama began tying up Jarasandha, who had killed so many foes. But Lord Govinda still had a purpose to fulfill through Jarasandha, and thus he asked Balarama to stop. Purport. The word hataratim means who has killed his enemies, or through whom his enemies would be killed. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti has provided this thoughtful note. 32 and 33. Jarasandha, whose fighters had highly honored, Jarasandha, whom fighters had highly honored, was ashamed after being released by the two lords of the universe, and thus he decided to undergo penances. On the road, however, several kings convinced him, with both spiritual wisdom and mundane arguments, that he should give up his idea of self-abnegation. They told him, your defeat by the Yadus was simply the unavoidable reaction of your past karma. 34. All of his armies having been killed, and himself neglected by this personality of Godhead, King Jarasandha, son of Brihadrata, then sadly returned to the kingdom of the Magadhas. 35 and 36. Lord Mukunda had crossed the ocean of his enemy's armies with his own military force completely intact. He received congratulations from the denizens of heaven who showered him with flowers. The people of Mathura, relieved of their feverish anxiety and filled with joy, came out to meet him as professional bards, heralds, and panegyrists sang in praise of his victory. Text 38. As the Lord entered his city, conch shells and kettle drums sounded, and many drums, horns, venas, flutes, and mridangas played in concert. The boulevards were sprinkled with water, there were banners everywhere, and the gateways were decorated for the celebration. The citizens were elated, and the city resounded with the chanting of Vedic hymns. Text 39. As the women of the city affectionately looked at the Lord, their eyes wide open with love, they scattered flower garlands, yogurt, parched rice, and newly grown sprouts upon him. Purport. All this is taking place as Lord Krishna enters the city of Mathura. 40. Lord Krishna then presented to the Yadu king all the wealth that had fallen on the battlefield, namely the countless ornaments of the dead warriors. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti adds that jewel ornaments had also been collected from the horses and other animals. What might be added here for the sake of the squeamish is that Jarasandha came to Mathura with the clear intention of slaughtering every last man in the city, including Krishna and Balaram. It is out of the causeless mercy of the Lord that He gives the conditioned souls a taste of their own medicine and thus helps them become more sensitive to the laws of nature and the existence of the Supreme Godhead. Ultimately, Krishna awarded Jarasandha and others killed on the battlefield spiritual liberation. The Lord is strict, but He is not malicious. In fact, He is an ocean of mercy. Text 41. 17 times the king of Magadha met defeat in this very way, and yet throughout these defeats he fought on with his Akshohini divisions against the forces of the Yadu dynasty who were protected by Sri Krishna. 42. By the power of Lord Krishna, the Vrishnis would invariably annihilate all of Jarasandha's forces, and when all his soldiers had been killed, the king, released by his enemies, would again go away. 43. Just as the 18th battle was about to take place, a barbarian warrior named Kalayavana, sent by Narada, appeared on the battlefield. Text 44. Arriving at Mathura, this Yavana laid siege to the city with 30 million barbarian soldiers. He had never found a human rival worth fighting, but he had heard that the Vrishnis were his equals. By the way, he heard that from Narada Muni. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes from the Vishnu Purana concerning the history of Kalayavana. Once, Gargya was ridiculed by his brother-in-law as a eunuch. And when the Yadavas heard this, they laughed heartily. Infuriated by their laughter, Gargya set out for the south, thinking, "May I have a son who will bring terror to the Yadavas." He worshipped Lord Mahadev, eating powdered iron, and after 12 years obtained his desired benediction. Elated, he returned home. Later, when the childless king of the Yavanas requested a son from him, Gargya begot in the Yavana's wife a son, Kalayavana. Kalayavana possessed the fury of Lord Shiva in his aspect as Mahakala. Once, Kalayavana asked Narada, "Who are now the strongest kings on earth?" Narada replied that the Yadus were. Thus, sent by Narada, Kalayavana appeared at Mathura. 45. When Lord Krishna and Lord Sankarshan saw Kalyavana, Krishna thought about the situation and said, "Ah, a great danger now threatens the Yadus from two sides." Purport. We may note here that although Sri Krishna had defeated Jarasandha 17 times against tremendous odds, he did not immediately annihilate the army of Kalyavana, thus keeping intact the benediction granted to Gargya by Lord Shiva, as explained in the previous purport. Text 46. This Yavana is besieging us already, and the mighty king of Magadha will soon arrive here, if not today, then tomorrow or the next day. Text 47. If powerful Jarasandha comes while we two are busy fighting Kalyavana, Jarasandha may kill our relatives or else take them away to his capital. Text 48. Therefore, we will immediately construct a fortress that no human force can penetrate. Let us settle our family members there and then kill the barbarian king. 49. After thus discussing the matter with Balarama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had a fortress 12 yojanas in circumference, built within the sea. Inside that fort, he had a city built containing all kinds of wonderful things. 50 to 53. In the construction of that city could be seen the full scientific knowledge and architectural skill of Vishwakarma. There were wide avenues, commercial roads, and courtyards laid out on ample plots of land. There were splendid parks and also gardens stocked with trees and creepers from the heavenly planets. The gateway towers were topped with golden turrets touching the sky, and their upper levels were fashioned of crystal quartz. The gold-covered houses were adorned in front with golden pots, and on top with jeweled roofs, and their floors were inlaid with precious emeralds. Besides the houses stood treasury buildings, warehouses, and stables for fine horses, all built of silver and brass. Each residence had a watchtower and also a temple for its household deity. Filled with citizens of all four social orders, the city was especially beautified by the palaces of Sri Krishna, the Lord of the others. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami explains that the state highways, Rathya, were in front and the secondary roads, Vidya, behind, and between them were courtyards, Chatvarani. Within these courtyards were surrounding walls, and within the walls stood golden residences, atop which shone crystal watchtowers, crowned with golden pots. Thus the buildings were multi-storied. The word vastu indicates that the houses and buildings were constructed of ample plots of land with plenty of room for green areas. Text 54. Lord Indra brought Sri Krishna to the Sudharma assembly hall, standing read that again. Lord Indra brought Sri Krishna to the Sudharma assembly hall, standing within which a mortal man is not subject to the laws of mortality. Indra also gave the Parijata tree. Text 55. Lord Varuna offered horses as swift as the mind, some of which were pure dark blue, others white. The treasurer of the demigods, Kubera, gave his 8 mystic treasures, and the rulers of various planets each presented their own opulences. Purport. Srila Sridhar Swami comments as follows on this verse. The master of the treasury is Kuvera, and the 8 treasures are his nidhis. These are described as follows. Padmas Chaiva Mahatpadmo Matyakurmao Tatau Dakaha Nilo Mukunda Sankascha Nidayo Shtao Pakirtitaha. The 8 mystic treasures are called Padma, Mahapadma, Matsya, Kurma, Audaka, Nila, Mukunda, and Shanka. Text 56. The Supreme Lord having come to the earth, O King, these demigods now offered him whatever powers of control he had previously delegated to them for the exercise of their particular authority. 57. After transporting all his subjects to the new city by the power of his mystic Yogamaya, Lord Krishna consulted with Lord Balarama, who had remained in Mathura to protect it. Then, wearing a garland of lotuses, but bearing no weapons, Lord Krishna went out of Mathura by its main gate. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes the following verses from Sri Padma Purana, Uttarakhanda, to describe how Lord Krishna transferred the citizens from Mathura to Dvaraka. Shishuptan Mathurayantu Paurans Tatra Janardanaha Udritya Sahasa Ratrau Dvarakaya Nyaveshayat Prabhudas Tejanak Sarve Putradara Samanbitaha Haimaharmya Talebishta Bismayam Paramam Yayuhu. In the middle of the night, as the citizens of Mathura slept, Lord Janardana suddenly removed them from that city and placed them in Dvaraka. When the men awoke, they were all amazed to find themselves, their children and their wives, sitting inside palaces made of gold. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 50th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Krishna Establishes the City of Dvaraka. Hari Bol. Jai Shri Shri Krishna Balaram Ki Jai. Victory to the Lord. Hari Krishna. Hari Bol. All glory to the mystic power of Krishna. Hare Krishna. So Krishna is called Yogeshwar, and all the mystic yogis in the whole universe, they get their powers when Krishna agrees to give them just a little drop of His. So altogether, His power is inconceivable. So now it's 4:57. How many pages does this verse have? Do you know this chapter? Shall I check it? $51, is it? Big one, 63 verses. Okay. Now we're faced with a decision. I will take a vote between everyone in the room and also anyone who's out there listening. I don't know how well that's going to work out. This is our last night here. Tomorrow morning we're going to Delhi. We'll be there for a couple of days. I have to do a few things, and also then we fly out to the UK, and Pranita Karuna will fly out to America, I think, on the same day. Yeah. So I don't want to. We still have to finish packing and get ready. I'm thinking of stopping here because I don't want to get halfway through this next chapter and then have to stop, because it's a wonderful chapter. I'm going to stop here. It's almost an hour, and open up the conversation. We have our magic open mic right here. And if anyone has reflections or anything that stuck in your mind while you were hearing this wonderful story about how Krishna dealt with Jarasandha and is about to deal with Kaliyavana, and how he dealt with protecting his citizens, his devotees, please feel free. The ball is now in your court. You got something?
No, I just was making sure we didn't get tangled up here.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Eric, you got something?
Yeah, I'll be glad to say something.
Bhakti Eric is going to be glad. He is glad, actually, to say something. Here.
Well, I'm always glad to hear Srimad-Bhagavatam. Thank you for your service reading it for everyone out there in the world.
Our pleasure.
Yeah.
Pleasure in all hours.
Yeah, I'm thinking let's read it again. That was so wonderful.
Yeah, well, that's our idea too. Again and never stop. Sure.
In this chapter, what really was exciting for me was how Krishna allowed him to go 17 times using this demon in his service to destroy the burden of the earth. So he is allowing even the demon to serve him in such a wonderful way.
Very nice point. Very nice. That's a fact. And also he's efficient.
Yeah.
He's like, Krishna is, this is a really wonderful point. Krishna is the supreme everything. Not just the supreme person, he's the supreme everything. He's the supreme manager, he's the supreme organizer, he's the supreme magician, he's this, So whenever he manages something, he does one thing that gets a whole bunch of things done. That's expert in management. So his idea was, why should I go running around all over the world, like killing all these demons? What if they come to me? That's a good tactic, strategy.
Yeah.
That's the way he also got all the different warriors in the battle of Kurukshetra. The kings came there and they just duked it out. And in the Bhagavad Gita, when Arjuna kind of was wondering whether he should fight because there were lots of his own family members on both sides of the armies and opposing parties. And then Krishna revealed his universal form and showed that he is time, and he has decided that these personalities are going to be removed from the earth. So whatever Arjuna did, that's what's going to happen. So he might as well fight and do what he wants and take the glory, or not the glory, but the satisfaction of serving. Yeah, so many examples of Krishna's potencies in these pastimes.
He seems to be having so much fun.
Yeah. Prabhupada always used to tell us that. You see Krishna in so many different circumstances, some of which are very tense, but he's always smiling. Right at the beginning of the Gita, Krishna says, or Sanjaya said, when he was describing Krishna, he said that Krishna, smiling, when Arjuna asked him to take the chariot in the middle of the armies, he was smiling because he knew what was going to happen. He never gets upset. Sometimes he acts like he's upset, but actually he's smiling the whole way through. How's the recording doing? Okay? Oh, good. Okay, let's hear from Jai Shri.
Says, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and everything is for his enjoyment. In the purport of verse 29, it states that the spiritual pastimes is itself an act of love that Krishna performs for the infinite spiritual happiness of pure-hearted souls, his pure devotees. Krishna is doing all these not for himself, but for his devotees, which is just amazing. I can't think of any religion that describes God to take actions to please his devotees who are his subordinates. This is so inconceivable. Your servant, Jai Shri Devi.
Thank you for that observation. And even further, it says that even those soldiers that were killed were liberated. So it's inconceivable that he does all these things for his devotees, but it's even more inconceivable that he does this and he benefits his enemies. Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dveshas tinapriyaha. He's equal to everyone. He doesn't feel especially friendly or especially averse to anyone. But in the same verse, he says, but if someone approaches me with devotion in his heart to render service, I am dear to that person and that person is dear to me. So this is the nature of the living being, the supreme living being. And therefore we all have that nature also. When someone comes to us with love and affection, it's natural for us to reciprocate in kind. But the difference between us and him is that even when people are inimical, he may annihilate them physically even, but they become benefited. I mean, how kind is that? Yeah, in other words, I'm just reinforcing Jayashree's conclusion that Krishna's pastimes are inconceivably merciful, inconceivably wonderful. Okay, Abhaya is become fearless after he got his initiation in his name. He's going to start to speak out. Okay, here we are.
It was just about that if Krishna reciprocates with people as they approach him a certain way, and if somebody approaches him trying to kill him, why does he reciprocate like that, still giving liberation, or benefiting them?
Why does he do that? That's a question. Yeah. That's a very good question. Well, I mean, the essence of it is this, that he's the seed-giving father of everyone. He's the seed-giving father of everyone. So he feels loving affection for everyone, as a father feels for everyone. Father may have, 5 sons, and 2 of them may be very, very affectionate and follow what he does and take over the business, and 3 of them may become criminals and do this and do that and whatever. But the father still loves them, no matter what they do. So that's the essence of the answer, the logical explanation. I mean, it's inconceivable logic, but it's logic nonetheless. It's not that Krishna's pastimes are illogical; they're translogical. They transcend mundane logic, but they're still logical, because it's natural. Like, for instance, if you see a group of children, right, in danger, like cars coming or something, whatever it is, and your child is among them, it's natural for you to go to your child first. You may want to try to do, save them all at the same time, but if it's not possible and you could only save one, it's natural to go to your own child. It's not partiality. It doesn't mean you don't love children. So because Krishna is actually the father of all living beings, therefore he makes these kinds of arrangements, for everyone, even those who become criminals or those who become demons. And why is that? Well, that's to fulfill the desires of, that's why, the father and mother, if the son is prodigal, has run away and is doing all nonsense and doesn't care for the parents, sometimes they'll still keep his room for him, and just wait for him to come back and keep the will open to give him the estate when he comes back. And in mundane life, sometimes fathers and mothers disown their children. Because their love isn't transcendental, their love isn't unconditional, it's not pure. But Krishna's love is unconditional to everyone. And therefore, he reciprocates according, if you ignore him, he'll, okay, if that's what you want, I'll ignore, and I'll just leave you alone. He'll disappear into the woodwork and not appear to you. And if you approach with love and devotion, he'll reciprocate and can satisfy you in every way, in any way. And if you attack him, he'll say, "Oh, okay," and he'll kill you and take you back to Godhead. That way, something like that. Is that something? Anything else from our esteemed audience? Okay, thank you very much, everybody. We're on our way tomorrow morning to Delhi, and we will have our reading, our daily reading tomorrow in Delhi at 6 o'clock. So put that on, mark it on your calendars. Instead of 4 o'clock India Standard Time, it'll be 6 o'clock India Standard Time. And we'll be there for a couple of days, 2 more days after that. And so we'll have 3 readings. And then the next morning we'll fly to London. Abhaya and myself and Pranata Guruna will fly to America, back to New Vrindavan. And Eric, I don't know where he's going, but he seems like he's pretty footloose and fancy-free. He's running around the world, having his transcendental experiences.
A couple weeks here in Govardhan, and then back to New York.
Couple of weeks here in Govardhan, then back to New York, and then back to Tennessee.
Yep. Opening up a center in Tennessee, me and Gayatri Das.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Wonderful.
Yeah, very excited about that.
May it be blessed with success, and may you get full Krishna, full Prabhupada's mercy.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Pleasure's always mine. Hare Krishna. It's our life and soul. We've been doing it for a whole lifetime almost, 47 years. Anybody who has that spirit to go out and make devotees, and especially in a new place, this is really pleasing to Prabhupada. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Okay, everyone. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Krishna and Balaram and poor Jarasandha. We can just feel sorry for him. But, he plays a part in Krishna's pastimes. He helps, like Eric said, he serves Krishna by bringing everybody together, so Krishna doesn't have to go out and waste too much energy. It's very efficient. So, all glories to all the cast of characters in Krishna's pastimes that work together in order to allow him to show us what the absolute truth is. Because that's the ultimate thing. All these pastimes where Krishna does things that is impossible to even think about anybody doing, except in a science fiction movie, and he actually does it, and therefore we worship him with all our hearts and beg for his mercy. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. See you tomorrow at 6 o'clock in Delhi. Hari Bol.